Hi there. Do me a favor, will you? I want you to imagine that you're driving along a highway or an interstate, somewhere out in the middle of nowhere. And just go ahead and close your eyes for a minute. Well, less than a minute, because I don't want to get a copyright strike. This is a long drive for someone with nothing to think about. But anyway, close your eyes and just imagine that you are on a highway, an interstate, just out in the middle of nowhere, just driving along. Are you ready? The rhythm of the windshield wipers on a rainy evening. This is shimmering heat mirages on the road ahead. This is coming up over a rise and descending into a gorge or a valley and taking in a totally new landscape all around the car. This is Nothing Still Lies Long, the first track on Interstate by the band Pell Mell. This is not only one of my favorite songs of all time, but this is one of my favorite opening tracks of all time. Now, if you've been watching this channel, you might know that I've been doing a series on albums that came out in 1995, and Interstate is another one of those records. Alright, so hop in and let's take a ride through this shifting sonic landscape. 12 tracks in all. It's a smooth ride toward that blissful, always unreachable horizon. But, you know, it's not about the destination. It's about the journey. Alright, usually when I make these videos, I don't do a lot of background on the band or any bios or anything like that because I feel like you can just go look that up on your own. But Pell Mell is pretty unknown, so bear with me for a minute here. They were formed way back in 1980, and the Pell Mell from the 90s had a bit of a different lineup, and actually they were first signed to SST Records for the album Flow, which was strange and kind of awesome. And then in the post-Nirvana signing boom, they were scooped up by DGC Records, a subsidiary of Geffen. They were actually signed to DGC because of a guy named Ray Farrell. He was a really strong advocate for Pell Mell, and he actually asked them to play his wedding in San Francisco. They were the wedding band, and that performance was kind of like a showcase for the band. Because a lot of the folks at Geffen were there at the wedding. And lo and behold, they were signed a few days later, and they got to make this record. The band signing to a major label was kind of strange, even back then. A lot of people were kind of mystified by that. And actually, Spin Magazine later listed this album, Interstate, among the curious post-Nirvana major label signings. After all, you wouldn't expect an instrumental, college scene kind of band like this to ever be signed to a major label with, they didn't add a vocalist. They had no desire to write any kind of hit songs or anything like that. They would not change their sound. And so DGC knew what they were getting, but they signed them anyway. Such was the weird post-Nevermind climate back in the early to mid-90s. A strange time in music, but a good time in music. And I wonder if the title of this, Interstate, is not only because this feels like a great driving album, but also all of the members lived in different areas of the United States. And so their songwriting process was basically that they would put something down on tape and then mail it to one of the other members, who would then add things to it and mail it to someone else. And then finally, when they felt like they had a demo, they would get into a recording studio. And so I feel like Interstate is not only the interstate highway system, but it's also like they're working together from a vast geographic area. Because none of them, they don't even live in the same area of the U.S. They all live on completely different coasts and everything. I have a quote here from guitarist David Spalding, talking about Interstate. This is from Perfect Sound Forever online music magazine, furious.com. When Flow came out, it got played on a lot of college radio, which was a real surprise to us. We had already recorded most of Interstate on our own before we were signed to Geffen, and we were used to doing things our own low-budget way. Once they signed us, they wanted to be involved, but we were used to doing everything ourselves, so we booked the studio ourselves, Fort Apache in Boston. I remember the A&R guy who had actually signed us came to the studio, and we were already well into recording stuff, which I think surprised him a little. He had a few suggestions and wanted some more up-tempo material, which we were happy to provide. But for the most part, Interstate was produced by us in control without much interference. Since we booked the studio and were efficient and thrifty, we all got a portion of the advance money. But when it came time to record the next record, Star City, the label was much more in control, and they insisted we get a recognized producer. They had some good ideas that might have actually been pretty cool too. Yeah, but by then, DGC would have dropped Pell Mell, and they had to be scooped up by EMI Matador Records, and they made their final record, Star City. Pell Mell was a very different band in the 90s than they were when they began. In 1980, their sound was more electronic. They used a lot of tape loops. It was vintage synthesizers and a lot of overdubbing and kind of strange electronic sounds, which all changed in 1992 when David Spalding joined the group and pushed their sound in a much more guitar-oriented direction. And so, by the time of Interstate, you do still have a little bit of the weirdness. The weirdness creeps in, little bits of synthesizers and strange noises and samples and loops are in there. But for the most part, it's guitar, bass, and drum with some weird organ. You can tell that David Spalding supercharged Pell Mell's songwriting prowess because on both the album Flow and also Interstate, most of the songs are credited to him or him with one other member of the band. Another notable member of Pell Mell is Steve Fisk. You might have heard of Steve Fisk. He's a recording engineer and producer, but he's also a musician with the band Pigeonhead. He collaborated with early Pell Mell guitarist Bill Owen as a band called Duck Hunt. And also Steve Fisk was responsible for helping the Screaming Trees get signed to SST Records way back in the day. So that's also really awesome. Steve Fisk is a really cool guy. All right, I'm going to jump into this record, but first I'd like to say that one of the things that struck me back in the day, back in the 90s when I heard this, was that because this is an instrumental record, it's guitar, bass, and drums with keyboards, but it's very much like a rock album, just without the vocalist. And I had never heard post-rock. I didn't know what that kind of thing was. But later on, when I listened to, for example, Mogwai, or the Japanese post-rock band Mono, this is One More Step and You Die. This is Come On Die Young. When I heard these records, I remembered Pell Mell, and I was like, you know, there was an obscure band in the 90s who was already doing this kind of post-rock, or what I like to call alternative post-rock, although I don't really like genre. But anyway, I want to say that if you like Mogwai, and if you like Mono, or even later on there was that band Battles. Battles came out with the album Mirrored in 2007. If you like Explosions in the Sky, great band, Explosions in the Sky. If you like some of the Constellation record bands, like Do Make Say Think, or I don't know, Fly Pan Am maybe, or some of that stuff. And then this one's not really exactly related to Pell Mell in any way, but there's also a wonderful Japanese band called Little Tempo that I am obsessed with. And this album doesn't really sound anything like Pell Mell. It's kind of like a quiet, like reggae dub jamming with, but anyway, no vocals. They call it like experimental jazz, but I don't think it's jazz. But anyway, it's kind of like dub music. But anyway, I don't think I'm ever going to get to talk about this album. So I just want to say this is Fire Blender by Little Tempo. Superior instrumental record. Anyway, if you like any of these artists and you've never heard of Pell Mell, I would highly recommend giving it a try. If you like a little happier sound, maybe go for Star City. Yeah, you might check out some of these albums or artists. I ain't no algorithm, but you know, all of these are good. William Tyler also. William Tyler has some countrified acoustic guitar and weird electric guitar reverb records that kind of evoke the American West or Southwest. Bill Frisell, I'm sure you've probably heard of him, very famous guitarist. He's got some great instrumental guitar records. Any of that kind of stuff. It's amazing. All right, now let's look at the songs. This is a no-skip record for me, for sure. But of course, like most things, I like a few songs better than I like others. So as I said in the intro, Nothing Lies Still Long, with its catchy beat and melodic guitar, is really like their statement of purpose. I feel like this is the beginning of the trip when everything is new and you're excited to be out on the open road. You have climbing altitudes of drum and bass, and sometimes shimmering, sometimes muted guitars, and organs and effects in the background, mapping the geography within the mind. I could easily listen to a 10-minute version of this song. I love this song. And I really like how at the end it kind of comes full circle. The ending kind of breaks everything back down to the simple groove that we started with. And it kind of shows that, it's all about the journey. Like, it doesn't really matter what the destination is. We're here for the journey. So, yeah, this is just an amazing song. This song was used in like TV and movies and stuff too sometimes. All right, track 2, Revival. Revival is a little bit sunnier. It's a little more upbeat. You've got the swirling organs and playful interlocking guitars. It has almost like a bluesy quality to it. Yeah, and it's another up-tempo track. Go ahead and roll down the windows. I think some reviewers said it sounds like the music that's used in a car commercial, and they're not wrong. But at the same time, I like this song. I don't know. I mean, yeah, it's again great driving music. I think of this song like if you're on a road trip. This is the slightly crowded highway interchange, but then you can kind of feel the open road ahead of you. And as you leave behind all of the gas stations and the fast food places, and you feel like now we're really getting somewhere. The song gets a little crazy toward the end. The guitar and everything gets very playful. The only thing that I would change is I wish it didn't fade out. I don't like it when songs fade out. It's a thing that I have. So yeah, I just want it to just keep going a little bit longer. All right, track 3, Karina. Cool title, by the way. This song has a concise and memorable melody. I think the arrangement's really interesting, but I'm not going to go into that. I just like to think of this song as like a slow, winding, two-way highway through the mountains. And the cascading guitar kind of sounds like maybe there's a waterfall in the distance or a river down below that you can see over the edge of the cliff. And you're just kind of driving along, like following the river as this gorgeous day unfolds before you. Track 4, Saucer. I don't know what that means, but now we're getting into gear. If Karina is a slow mountain drive that's nice and peaceful, then Saucer is the one where you stomp on the accelerator and just tear out on the highway, out in the middle of nowhere. Maybe Wyoming where there's like no speed limits. Is that still a thing? I love the propulsive drumming. I love how this kind of sounds like math rock, except with a normal time signature. It's almost a roll down the windows and pump your fist kind of rock song, almost. But it's also overly complicated, and the loops make it seem almost like, like in old cartoons where like the same background keeps going by. Track number 5, Pound Cake. This kind of hints at what Pell Mell would do on their next record, Star City. This is a very bright and very major key, kind of happier song. It has that kind of like poppy, punchy bass with lead guitar and organ kind of wandering over the top of it. This one kind of feels like a jam, like more than other songs. I feel like this is the part of the road trip where you stop at the rest area and get out and stretch your legs, maybe jump around a little bit and kind of shake off the fatigue from driving. And then like as the organ swells toward the middle and the end of this song, I almost feel like I have the image of like dusk or evening and you're kind of heading toward those city lights. Yeah. All right, track 6, Constellation. This is a great song. It begins with just a few plucked notes from an electric guitar, and the organ holds these really long notes, and then the lead guitar kind of trickles in, and then it becomes more epic and kind of dreamy, and I felt like the western skyline on this one, like open space and just and the freedom of the open road. It's like you've been driving for a long time, or maybe you're not driving anymore, now you're letting someone else drive, and you're trying to catch a little sleep. In terms of the track list, I like how this falls in the middle of the album, because after all of the previous songs, the mostly up-tempo and kind of busy instrumentation, it's nice to kind of come down for a while and still have that, like, the momentum of the drums pulling you along. And this song kind of reminded me of the band Lights Out Asia, if you've ever heard of them. All right, and then track 7, Blacktop. That's a cool name for a song. So now you've had a little shut-eye and you've kind of revived a little bit. Maybe you drank some coffee or popped a couple Vivarin. You're back in the groove. And this song actually has, there's a man yelling in the middle of this song. I don't really like that. Like, I'm okay with samples in songs, but like, I don't know why this man is yelling and I can't understand what he says. I don't know if it's a band member or it's like a sample. His heavily distorted voice is just yelling. And after the man yells, this song almost becomes a straight up rock song. It like kicks it up a notch, and I felt like I mean, Pell Mell's not really like a rockin' band, but like they rock out pretty hard at the end of this one. And then track 8, Butterfly Effect. This is also a great song, but this one's a little moodier. It's a little darker. We're bringing things back down again. The chords are dissonant. It's kind of minor key, but it's so beautiful. This song kind of feels like driving at night. It's quiet, it's introspective, having a good conversation with your passenger or passengers. Meanwhile, the road signs suddenly appear and then sink back into the black. It's a low-key, stress-free song, and it's one of my favorite tracks on the record. It kind of goes all over the place instrumentally. They bring a lot of instruments in toward the end, but it never gets too busy, and it always manages to maintain a pretty chill vibe. All right, tracks 9 and 10 I kind of think of as one song. I'm not sure if it was supposed to be that way, but both are good on their own. Like if you put it on a mixtape, they would stand alone. But I think together it's really like a 1-2 punch. Drift kind of envelopes the listener in this somber mood with the finger-plucked electric guitar doing this refrain that will kind of build and build. Meanwhile, the subterranean bass is kind of supporting. And the percussion is only one cymbal, a very quiet cymbal in the background until about halfway through the song, when drummer Robert Bierman taps the edge of his snare, and then everything gets a little bit bigger. It doesn't actually become like cathartic or really... It never really resolves, but it's like when the lead guitar enters and then everything becomes kind of like pensive and a little bit darker somehow, even though like there's more instruments. And because there's no resolution, that's kind of why I see it as the intro to Vegetable Kingdom. Vegetable Kingdom, kind of a weird name for a song, but it's like Drift just cuts out and then Vegetable Kingdom starts with this kind of weird sample that's like a backwards talking voice. And then this song is like just cut up craziness. Like there's so many parts to this song. There's so many transitions, and it kind of feels like each member of the band was just like, how about this? How about that? Like everything everywhere all at once. It all fits together somehow. It's just a lot of ideas, and it's quite a journey just within this one song. As we were on the road trip, now we're getting kind of strung out. We've been driving too long, and things are starting to get weird.
I remember saying something like, I feel a bit lightheaded. Maybe you should drive.
But luckily there's track 11, Ether. This kind of brings back Dave Spalding's guitar tone from track 1. The guitar sounds quite similar to Nothing Lies Still Long, and also the way he plays kind of echoes that song. I feel like these two songs are like two sides of a coin. I feel like this song brings everything full circle on the album. This easily could have been the last track on the record. Maybe like we're calling back to like what set us on the road trip in the first place. And Steve Fisk kind of weaves these strange noises throughout, and it even sounds like he's kind of playing like an old mellotron or something. Like there's some really cool like vintage instruments going on in the background, I think. So this is kind of nearing the end of the trip where everything's coming together and everybody's kind of excited to get to where you're going. And you're kind of reflecting on all of the things that you've seen and all of the experiences you've had on this long, strange trip. Track 12, Floating Gate, begins with a strummed electric guitar riff, kind of noodling bass and weird psychedelic lead guitar. I have to say this song feels a little bit tacked on. Like I feel like Ether would have been a perfect closing song to the record. As like a little epilogue, it's a pretty okay little song, little jam, I think. I don't know. It just feels a little anticlimactic, I guess. Like, now we're at the destination, but the journey was really where it was at, Maybe the destination wasn't as fun as we thought, and the true memories come from the journey and the road trip itself. I think this album is endlessly re-listenable. Is that a word? Depending on my mood, this album speaks to me in a lot of different ways, a lot of different emotions. And I'm a big lyrics person, but the fact that there are no lyrics to color my interpretations of these songs somehow makes it better. But if you just close your eyes and let the music take you where it wants you to go, I don't think you'll be disappointed. Sometimes you don't need a destination, not all who wander are lost and all that. But I think with Interstate, Pell Mell has certainly created a very uniquely American album. It's an album of driving songs, but you don't even have to really be driving. you can just stay at home or ride the subway or whatever, and just imagine this amazing, long, strange trip unfolding in front of you. So, if you've never heard of Pell Mell, I'd be very curious to know what you think of this band. And if you do know them, please tell me, what is your favorite song? What's your favorite record by Pell Mell? And that's all I've got for today. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you again.